I'm Dr. K. Sangeeta, Associate Professor, Department of Agriculture Biotechnology. In this lecture, I will discuss about electron microscopy. Contents are introduction, working mechanism, parts of transmission electron microscope, sample preparation, and the advantages and disadvantages of electron microscopy. Electron microscope was first developed by Max Knoll and Ernst Ruska in 1931. Electron microscope uses a beam of energetic electrons to examine the objects on a very fine scale. The discovery of electron microscope has revolutionized the field of microbiology, especially in the identification of the microorganisms, in detail the structures of the viruses. Electron microscope uses short wavelength of the electron beams instead of light energy. What is the main difference between the electron microscope and the light microscope is a light microscope uses light as the source of energy and electron microscope uses electron as a source of energy. Light has a longer wavelength and hence a very short penetrating power. If you take these electrons has got a shorter wavelength and has a high penetration power. This makes it a very significant one, and this electrons is able to penetrate deeper inside the cells and is able to reveal the structure and morphology, even the internal structures of the bacteria and the viruses. The types of electron microscope. Two types is there. These are basic types: transmission electron microscope and scanning electron microscope. Transmission electron microscope uses a wide beam of electrons passing through a thin sliced specimen to form an image. It uses the transmitted electrons to get captured on a fluorescent screen, and that screen will project an image of the specimen. So transmission electron microscope. But what is the basic difference between the transmission electron microscope and scanning electron microscope? Scanning electron microscope uses focused beam of electrons to scan over the surface of a thick or the thin specimens. So it will not deep penetrate inside the specimens. Instead, that it would scan over the surfaces of the specimens. Also, when it scans over the surface, that surface structures of the specimens are noted down or observed under the scanning electron microscopy. So images are produced one spot at a time in a grid-like raster pattern. So it will be appearing in a grid-like raster pattern. The scanned electrons over the surfaces will be appearing as the images at the final image. So we'll see very detailed about the transmission electron microscopy. Transmission electron microscopy. So it has the basic parts like thermionic electron gun at the top and the condenser lens to collect the electrons, transmitted electrons, and to focus it onto the specimen grid. Objective lens is there, projective lens, and phosphorescence screen. So this is the picture depicting the electron microscopy. So what is the working principle? A stream of high voltage electrons, usually 5 to 100 keV, is formed by the electron source. That electron source is a heated tungsten or a field emission filament. When it is heated upon, it will be generating electrons. Those electrons will be traveling or accelerated in a vacuum towards the specimen using a positive electric potential. Those stream of electrons is confined and it is focused using metal apertures and magnetic lenses into a thin focused monochromatic beam. So this is a main or the basic difference we could observe between this light microscopy and electron microscopy. In the light microscopy, light is used as a source of energy. Light is made to fall onto the mirror. That mirror will capture the light source and it will transmit it to the condenser that is placed. And instead of that, here in the electron microscopy, these metal apertures and magnetic lenses is there. So in the light microscopy, condenser is acting to capture all those, capture the light. Here, metal apertures and magnetic lenses collects the light and allows to focus into a thin focused monochromatic beam. This beam is again focused on the sample using a magnetic lens, and interactions occurs inside the irradiated sample and the prepared sample. Here, irradiated sample refers to the prepared sample affecting the electron beam. So these interactions and effects are detected and transformed into an image. So those electrons that are traveling will fall onto the specimen, and the specimen will receive the primary electrons, and then it will reflect out the secondary electrons. The parts of the electron microscope are electron gun, electron column, electromagnetic lens system, detectors, water chilling system, specimen or sample chamber, main control panel, and operational controls and image capture. Electron gun. The electron gun generates the electron beam. It is usually positioned in the top of the instrument column. The emitter is seated within a cone-shaped Wegener cylinder, and the beam travels out of the small central hole present in the apex of the cone. Electron column. Electron column is made up of the gun assembly at the top. This gun assembly carries this filament, that is the filament for eating and transmitting the electrons. It is a column filled with a set of electromagnetic lenses, sample port and airlock, and a set of apertures that can be moved in and out of the path of the beam. The contents of the column are placed under vacuum condition. It is especially placed under vacuum condition so that the electrons are only accelerated and allowed to be captured by the condenser lenses. It is the magnetic lenses. Electron lenses focuses the parallel electrons at constant focal distance. Electron lenses may operate electrostatically or magnetically. The majority of electron lenses for TEM uses electromagnetic coils to generate a convex lens. Electron lenses are manufactured from iron cobalt, or nickel cobalt alloys such as permalloy. But in the case of light microscopy, we have the optical systems that is made up of optical lenses, which helps in the capturing the light energy. Here, for the electron microscopy, it is designed specially to capture the electrons. These iron cobalt or nickel cobalt alloys. Detectors, X-ray energy dispersive spectroscopy, EDS or EDX system is used as the detectors. This typically involves a large dewar for liquid nitrogen to keep the detector cold, so that the full instrument system doesn't got eaten up very fastly, and hence the liquid nitrogen is kept for cooling the entire system. And an arm on which the equipment sits and a solid state detector is also kept that penetrates the column. So hence it is located or fixed near the sample. These detectors are fixed near the samples. Nextly is the last one is the fluorescent screen. Fluorescent screen is coated with zinc sulfide present beneath the projector lens in the path of electron beam. Screen emits the visible light when it is bombarded with the electrons. So sample preparation is a very, very crucial process, especially with the electron microscopy when compared to the light microscopy. In the light microscopy process, it is very, very simple and an easier process. It is just done by the staining method, and we can do it within 5 minutes, or it may hardly take half an hour to focus in the light microscopy. That is, the staining process is a very, very simple process in the light microscopy when compared to the electron microscopy. Electron microscopy involves a lot of laborious steps is involved here. Generally, it is divided into 3 steps: processing, embedding, and polymerization. And in processing, embedding, and polymerization are the 3 steps that is very involved. And later on, after polymerization, that can be focused by staining with heavy metals. Coming to the first step, that is processing. Processing includes fixing, rinsing, post-fixation, dehydration, and filtration. So these are the steps that is involved in the first stage of the sample preparation in the electron microscopy. So this is the schema that is available for the transmission electron microscopy and even the scanning electron microscopy. Generally, it will be the specimen will be taken up and the specimen will be supported or will be placed onto a grid, onto a grid. Then it will be, after the embedding process, it could be sliced into thin slices using ultramicrotomy. Ultramicrotomy is nothing but a knife that is used to slice the samples. After slicing the samples, you can label the sample with the immunolabels to observe the specific particular parts, that is the antigenic parts of the structures of the viruses or the bacteria. Or either you can contrast the samples by adding the heavy metals, and also that you can correlate with the images that you can observe through the light microscopy by staining with the light microscopy stains and transmission electron microscopy. And also you can do the negative staining or the metal shadow technique can be followed to observe the structures of the bacteria and viruses and also the internal structures. Next is the specimen. Other specimen preparation process for the scanning electron microscopy is the chemical fixation process. Firstly, it can be chemically fixed and then dehydrated. It could be, we can make it to reach the sample at a critical point, drying using freezing agents, and then it can be sliced and metal coated or even carbon coating can be done to observe the samples. So this is a general techniques or the steps that is followed for the scanning electron microscopy and the transmission electron microscopy. The first step, primary fixation of the tissues, it is a first step that is followed in the processing of the samples in the scanning electron microscopy. So first is the primary fixation of tissues. Here, double fixation is done here. Double fixation method is the most popular technique that is followed. First is that it involves the primary fixation in an aldehyde, followed by a secondary fixation in osmium tetroxide. Later on, glutaraldehyde. In the aldehyde sections, mostly glutaraldehyde is the solution that is used to fix it, especially for the preservation of the ultrastructures, because it penetrates very slowly than the monaldehyde and paraformaldehyde. So glutaraldehyde is the preserved aldehyde that is used for the primary fixation process, especially for the transmission electron microscopy or the electron microscopy specimen processing. Next is the rinsing of specimen. Rinsing of specimen refers to the removal of excess glutaraldehyde from the samples. These excess glutaraldehyde from the samples are washed with 0.1 molar cacodelic acid buffer that has the pH 7.3. First, it is washed with this 0.1 molar cacodelic acid buffer for 10 minutes. And then subsequently 3 times it is done for 20 minutes at 4 degrees Celsius. So the remaining glutaraldehyde may interact with the specimen and may spoil the specimen in the later course if you are keeping it as such. Hence, removal of glutaraldehyde is necessary by rinsing process with the help of this cacodelic acid. Next is the secondary post fixation of the specimen. So first it has been finished with the primary fixation process and then it has been removed with this with the help of cacodelic acid. Next is the secondary fixation. Secondary fixation is done with the osmium tetroxide for 1.5 hours at room temperature, or also that other organic solvents are also preferred like methanol, ethanol, acetone are also used for the dehydration process. Acetone is the preferred one because there will be a less lipid loss than with the other direct ethanol dehydrations like ethanol and methanol. So it is always that acetone is preferred since it has got a very less lipid loss. Next is the alcohol substitution. It involves the replacement of the ethanol or the acetone by another intermediary solvent, that is propylene oxide. Propylene oxide is used in a step-by-step manner, that is to remove the acetone that has been used in the secondary fixation process. So next is that this would help in the infiltration of the specimen with the transitional solvent and the removal of the other solvents. So what is it? It involves the overnight immersion of the specimen in propylene oxide or Durcopan ACM at a room temperature. Specimens are immersed in it and left for 2 hours at a room temperature. Next is the embedding the media. That is embedding media. So first is the fixation process is over. Next, if we are going to this embedding process, embedding process is keeping the sample in an embedded material. So here, what is the embedded material that are used to place the samples before this ultramicrotomy process is resins and polyester resins and methacrylates are the things that are used for this embedding process. So mostly epoxy resins are desired for this electron microscopy. Epoxy resins are nothing but polyaryl ethers of glycerol with terminal epoxy groups. Resins, what are resins? Resins are transparent yellowish resins which range from viscous liquids to fusible solids. Addition of any curing agents helps them to convert into a tough, extremely adhesive and highly inert solid. So after this embedding process, these materials are made to polymerize. Okay, polymerization of the epoxy material can be achieved by placing the specimen in a drying cabinet for 2 days, 40 degrees Celsius, and for additional 2 days, 60 degrees Celsius. Next, after this primary fixation process, the embedding or the polymerization process, the last stage is the sectioning process. This is about the specimen preparation, not the specimen sample preparation. It is about the specimen preparation. So sectioning is the third step. Sectioning is cutting the specimens into ultra thin sections on ultra microtomes using glass knives or diamond knives. So the thickness of the sections should be approximately 60 nanometers. So sectioning is done with the help of an ultra microtome. Ultra microtome is nothing but a glass knife. It is made up of a diamond or a glass material that has the capacity to slice the specimen into a very, very thin section of 60 nanometer, which could be easy to process the sample later on and to observe the sample under the electron microscopy. So these are the pictures having the diamond knife and the fine forceps to be used and firmware coated grids to place the specimens and to cut the specimens using this diamond knife. What are the techniques used for the observation? So far, whatever we saw was about the preparation of the specimen preparation. Here are the techniques that is used like staining to observe the microorganisms in electron microscopy. So first technique is the basic technique is the shadow casting method. In this shadow casting method, an extremely thin layer of metal, that is example platinum, is deposited on the object from a highly heated filament at an oblique angle, so that object produces a shadow on the uncoated side. So here in this picture, it is well elaborated that in this corner, a heavy heated filament platinum is wire escaped that is made to heat and evaporate so that it could remove it could emit the electrons or the platinum metal outside, so that it could release the platinum metal outside in an evacuated chamber, so that it could fall onto the specimens that has been kept on the grid. So what happens here is the heavy metals is getting deposited on one side of the sample. One side of the sample it is getting deposited, and on the other side it is not getting deposited. so that when it is focused under the microscope, you can see the shadow of that. That shadow refers to the size, shape of the object. That shadow refers to the shape of this object. Thus, with this diagram, you could be able to see that it is getting deposited at one side of that sample, and the other side you can see the image, the circle, round circle, and the square box and the triangle. So this shows the shape of the object. So similarly, it is also with the biological specimens, that after sectioning, you can place it on the grid samples, and you can shadow cast with the help of these heavy metals like platinum and phosphotungstic acid and all. So these things would get deposited on the surface of the specimen, and when you observe under the microscope, the exact structure or the outer structure of the shape of the microorganisms will be visible. The shape of the microorganism especially is noted or recorded with the help of the shadow casting technique. So this is the image or the picture of the shadow casting of the microbial cells. Various microbial cells of different shapes and structures are revealed through this electron microscopy by this simple shadow casting technique. Shadow casted is a flagellated bacteria. The thin, long, elongated fibers that is attached with this bacteria is shown. And the next slide, next picture, the shadow casted poliovirus particles with the polyhedral shapes is arranged in groups. That is also. And next thing is tobacco mosaic virus having a rod shaped filament, rod shaped structures. It is shown. So it is the ultra thin sectioning that is done, and also that after the ultra thin sectioning, you can deposit and or also that special stain can be followed, so that the uranium and lanthanum salts can be added to deposit on the surfaces of the structures. Since when it is sliced, it would become a very, very fine structure. Although it becomes a fine structure, even electrons are able to penetrate the structures, it is difficult to observe it. So hence it is contrasted or added with the special strains such as uranium and lanthanum salts that would get deposited on the surface. Next technique is the negative staining technique. So what is negative staining technique is? This technique is followed to observe the minute details of very small objects such as viruses and bacteria, bacterial flagella. Like in the negative staining technique, an electron opaque material like phosphotungstic acid or its salt is allowed to form a coat of a thick deposit on the surface of the object. Here also the same thing. Similarly, you will be depositing or making a thick coat to deposit on the surface of the bacterial cell wall or the flagella, or even the internal structures of the cell wall. Like the electron opaque material that is used is phosphotungstic acid. When electrons from the electron gun of the electron microscope cannot pass through these coated surfaces, these structures becomes clearly visible. Okay, so since it has been coated on the top, it will not allow the electrons to penetrate deep inside. So it would allow and gives the shape of the bacteria, especially the external parts, even the pili or the flagella structures, the outer parts can be easily observed through this negative staining, and it would give you contrast between the internal structures and the outer structures of the bacteria. So these are the negatively stained bacteria and viruses. Bacterial cells are too large for surface detail to be revealed by negative staining. However, the flagella lies flat on the surface and it is easily visible, and we can see the tuft of flagella that has been distributed. Nextly, even the tobacco mosaic virus cylindrical structures are there, formed from the protein monomers with a hollow core containing nucleic acids. However, we can see visibly the cylindrical structures of these viruses. Next method is the freeze etching method. Freeze etching method is in this method the samples are quickly freezed. First, the sample will undertake the quick freezing process in nitrogen sludge or a nitrogen cooled medium like freon or propane ethane. Followed by that freezing the sample in this materials, It allows to preserve the structures of the bacteria when it is sliced. So that is the main thing for undertaking the freeze etching process. This freeze etching process helps to preserve the internal structures of the bacteria when it is cut, or when it is cut with a when it is cut. So after this freezing process, it is cleaved, followed by differential sublimation of the ice on the specimen surface, that is by etching process. After this cutting, it is then contrasted with a metal, example platinum, onto which carbon is evaporated. So this picture explains fully about the process that is undertaken in the freeze etching. First is the cube freezing process. Next is fracturing of the specimens. Third is etching, and then replica formation using this carbon coating mechanism. So these are the freeze fracture deep etch electron microscopy image of Merole. You can see it is an algae, and we can see the chloroplast and the mitochondrion and the nucleus present in one cell, and parallelly in the adjacent cell, dividing chloroplast, mitochondrion, and starch molecules or starch granules that is deposited present inside the cell. Here also the dividing chloroplast is beautifully has been depicted in this freeze etching procedure. This is possible, that is to study the internal structures of these organisms. These freeze etching process and electron microscopy gives an advantage. So this picture itself depicts and gives a very contrast image that how that is in the left side image, you can see the chloroplast, a single chloroplast that is present, and a mitochondrion and a nucleus structure. And the adjacent picture, a dividing chloroplast is present and a mitochondrion and starch granules. So this is possible with a electron microscopy. So these are the sample preparation techniques and the staining methods for the transmission electron microscopy. And what is the main significance of this transmission electron microscopy is that it magnifies the image to 50 million times, and the specimen appears flat in this one. In the scanning electron microscopy, magnifies to 5 lakh times, and it's a sharp images of occurs with the sharp surface features. Especially we can observe the surface features of the scanning electron microscopy. And nextly, that the resolving power is highly increased with the transmission electron microscopy and SEM. The resolving power, it is the distinguishing of the two objects that has been closed together into two separate entities. So what is resolving power is the capacity or the ability to distinguish the two objects that has been placed very, very closer to each other, but also has to be distinctly distinguished. So that is possible with this transmission electron microscopy and scanning electron microscopy. That's why when compared to the light microscopy, we could be able to observe the shape and the structures of the bacterial sizes, but not with the viral structures. Except the pox viruses, we cannot see the structures of the viruses we cannot observe the structures of viruses in the light microscope. Advantages is TEM provides, that is transmission electron microscopy, provides the topographical structures, morphological structures, compositional and crystalline informations, and it is useful in the study of crystals and metals. As I told, that topographical structures like flagellar structure, pili structure, capsule structures, and virus spike structures, all those things is possible. So those topographical structures we can observe with the help of TEM. So only with the advent of only with the discovery of this transmission electron microscopy, there was a big revolution in the field of microbiology, and lots and lots of viruses were discovered, and it enabled to visualize the structures and shapes of many viruses. So that was possible with the help of this discovery of TEM only. Morphological structures, similarly the shapes you can observe. Compositional and crystalline information, especially this is done even with the metals, metal molecules, and even in these nanoparticle characterizations. This STEM has got many advantages, and it's why it is having usefulness in the metal, that is nanoparticle form, nanoparticle shapes, finding out the shapes of sizes of the nanoparticles, and also it is useful in the study of the crystals and metals. Disadvantages: TEMs are large and very expensive. It has laborious sample preparation. So sample preparation is a laborious one, and we have to be very, very meticulous in that. And next thing is potential artifacts from sample preparation is possible, since we are cutting the samples and we are coating the sample with the contrast metal sometimes. So artifacts is also possible with this TEM sample preparation. TEM requires special housing and maintenance because TEM requires special housing and maintenance because the entire unit has to be operated in a vacuum chamber. Although it has got a vacuum column, it has to be specialized, it has to be kept in a separate room, and images will appear in a black and white formations. So, but in this light microscopy, we can stain with the many strains, and in that is in the light microscopy we can stain with the colorful dyes, and we can observe the colors. We can stain or coat them with the colors and we can observe it, but that is not possible in the transmission electron microscopy until the labeling is done.